Hello everyone and welcome to News Tonight. Jonano Pori is our sign language interpreter. I'm Rhoda Ngonzi.
Michael Jordan Lukomwa.
Let's dig into it. President Yoweri Museveni has urged members of the East African Legislative Assembly to work for the fast tracking of the East African integration in order to guarantee the future of the peoples of East Africa.
The president, also current chairperson of the East African Community, was opening the first session of the 4th East African Legislative Assembly.
The session opened at the Parliament in Kampala and closes on 8th February.
We have it in this report.
President Yoweri Museveni, who is currently the chairperson of the East African Community, has this afternoon opened the second meeting of the first session of the 4th EELA Assembly, sitting at Parliament in Kampala. The meeting, which started today, Tuesday the 23rd of January, will run up to the 8th of February 2018. The 6 East African Community countries include Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi, and the new entrant, South Sudan. In his speech, President Museveni urged members of the East African Legislative Assembly to work for the fast tracking of the East African integration that will guarantee the prosperity of wananchi of the region.
Integration in Africa or in any other part of the world is about 4 things. Number 1, prosperity for the members of that area. We integrate in order to unite the markets so that the markets can support the prosperity of our citizens.
He pointed out the need for prosperity of the people, fraternity of wananchi of the region, as they are closely similar or linked by language, culture, and history. He added that other benefits include strategic security, better management of the shared natural resources like Lake Victoria, as well as strong bargaining power with bigger world markets.
To us, say, please, you Tanzanians, you Kenyans, you Banyarwanda, you Burundi, you South Sudan people, let's unite our markets so that my maize producers in the Chibanda district are not stuck with the maize.
The president said that issues of food insecurity, as mentioned by Right Honorable Kadaga, would not arise as Uganda today has a surplus of 5 million tons of maize that could be sold to people in the affected areas.
As I speak today in Uganda, here you are talking of hunger, Right Honorable Kadaga, that there is hunger in East Africa, some problem somewhere. But in Uganda we have got a huge crop of maize. 5 million tons. We are stuck with the maize.
The Speaker of EELA, the Right Honorable Martin Ngoga from Tanzania, hailed the cordial relationship existing between the Assembly and the Parliament of Uganda and pledged to further strengthen this relationship.
I take my initial steps in the new role of speakership. I wish to thank you in a special way for the support you are already and will continue to render me as we consult on parliamentary matters and on other regional matters that are healthy and mutual for our institutions.
The Speaker of Parliament of Uganda, Right Honorable Rebecca Kadaga, voiced her concern about the climate change that has affected some areas of East Africa, causing food insecurity.
We need to do a lot on the issue of climate change. There has been a considerable drought in the region. There has been crop failure in some instances. Thousands of cattle have died, especially in the Horn of Africa. This has made the food prices very high and left a number of populations struggling to survive.
UBC TV, Harriet Nambi.
In more news, the Private Sector Foundation Uganda has launched a new identity logo at a ceremony presided over by Prime Minister Dr. Ruhakana Rugunda.
This launch is intended to renew the foundation's promise to lead Uganda private sector in driving the country's economic growth.
It advocates for an improved business environment and work with government to reduce the cost of doing business in the country.
We are now unveiling the new private sector logo. Yeah, this is the new PSFE identity, new energy, new focus.
Private Sector Foundation Uganda is Uganda's apex body for the private sector. It is made up of over 220 business associations, corporate bodies, and major public sector agencies that support private sector growth. The Prime Minister, Dr. Ruhakana Rugunda, hailed the move by the Private Sector Foundation Uganda to repackage, redefine, and reposition the way they work through this identity. He said it was timely and significant.
The world and issues keep changing. The business and economic landscape keep changing as well, and issues take new forms. New actors come on the stage. Technology and other dynamics come, and therefore, an organization must always be on the lookout on how to take advantage of the changes to benefit its membership. Private Sector Foundation has therefore done the right thing in this regard. The new identity must go beyond the logo, as the chairman Dr. had indicated earlier. It must go beyond the logo and beyond the brand and match the gravity of the task at hand, which is to better position the private sector in the driving seat of our economy.
He implored them to come up with more innovative ways of developing more platforms for dialogue across government, the private sector, and the development partners. The State Minister for Trade, Werike Kafabusa, pledged that his ministry will continue providing enabling laws such as the Public-Private Partnership Law.
Will not only change the perception of PSFU, but also create a new chapter in organizing and facilitating private sector growth and competitiveness. We as government commit to support and work with a more energized PSFU for the betterment of trade and investment.
On his part, the chairman of the Private Sector Foundation Uganda, Patrick Vitature, said there was need for Private Sector Foundation Uganda to redefine itself in order to remain relevant to the private sector.
We need to squeeze the private sector from these taxes. But I think it's better to go to the bottom, increase the number of people rather than the current base only, to get that little juice out of them. We have a tall order and we are totally aligned with the government. We want to become a middle-income country. But to move from where we are to the next level, we need to bring people on by cajoling them, by incentivizing them, not by squeezing them.
Since its founding in 1995, Private Sector Foundation Uganda has served as a focal point for private sector advocacy as well as capacity building. It continues to sustain a positive policy dialogue with government and engagement with development partners on behalf of the private sector. This report was compiled by Mugera Michael for UBC News.
Meanwhile, the Speaker of Parliament, Rebecca Kadaga, has refuted claims that Parliament has created a big gap between itself and the people. While addressing the civil society dialogue, the Speaker told civil society to cooperate with Parliament. Let's take a look.
The 10th Parliament faces misjudgment, which seems to accrue from the age limit amendment. The public blamed the 10th Parliament for acting contrary to their mandate, as stipulated in the 1995 Constitution. During the civil society dialogue at Parliament, members of civil society explained their position on the 10th Parliament.
Overall responsibility of Parliament is to safeguard the Constitution. Is that what the 10th Parliament is doing? Or has there been a change?
The voice of the people, a reflection on the 10th Parliament. I wondered whether the voice of the people was a statement of fact, a rhetorical question, or better still, a question that needed to provide answers.
In the dialogue, issues like misrepresentation of the people by MPs, lack of accountability, and lack of direction in decision-making cropped up.
The voice of Parliament in bringing law and order and ensuring that no man is above the law is being drowned in these issues. Could that be the case?
I know that members of Parliament know that Ugandan citizens are not looking for these kinds of people. Because if you have a failing education system, you don't produce RDCs, you produce school inspectors.
This year's dialogue under the theme Parliament, the Voice of People, focused on the representation role of members of Parliament.
The question of, since the Parliament, the 6th Parliament, we've been having reviews of the Constitution and amendments which have provided for the expansion of the space of the state. On the other hand, on the opposite side, these bills have actually been narrowing the space of citizens.
The Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Jacob Olanya, urged civil society and members of the public to assess whether policies and laws Parliament passes serve the interest of the public.
The policies we pass, are they still responsive? Dealing with issues of human survival, facilitating growth and development of people, giving the environment where people can prosper. The policies we pass, do they still focus on those issues?
Olanya attributed the deviation of members of Parliament on political atmosphere, blaming them for spending most times on political arguments rather than focus on issues that bring about development to the country. He has, however, implored civil society to stop influencing Parliament and turning the situation into a brain game.
But the question is, how do we use the realities that we have in the circumstances that we are in to get the best deal out of this situation? How do you help us as Parliament?
However, the Speaker of Parliament, Rebecca Kadaga, sees no gap between the people and Parliament.
A visible lacuna and a disconnect between the population and the leaders. That's why we have since then engaged in many activities. The Uganda Parliament has been engaging in outreach activities.
The 1995 Constitution of Uganda highlights the role of Parliament, one of which is to make laws and promote peace and good governance. Susan Naonga reporting.
Still in Parliament, the Parliamentary Defence Committee ended prematurely today before members from the Ministry of Defence and the UPDF officials gave their response about the current situation in the country. The legislators raised concerns on the arrest of murder suspects, also members of the infamous Border 2010 group, and the security situation at the Uganda-Congo border. Jackson Onyango has this.
National service is a constitutional requirement.
Officials from the Ministry of Defence Tuesday appeared before Parliamentary Defence Committee to present budget estimates for the financial year 2018-19 amounting to 77 billion shillings. These were led by the Airline Minister Adolf Mwesje, the Permanent Secretary Rosette Biengoma, and the UPDF spokesperson Brigadier Richard Karemire, among others.
About the referral speech, I would like to say that the contract was signed, and as I have said, the groundbreaking ceremony will be done in the first week of next month.
The MPs on the committee demanded that the National Enterprise Corporation (NEC), a commercial arm of the Ministry of Defense, submits its budget framework paper of the public enterprises and state corporation, basing on the massive budget it got.
What's happening to National Enterprise Corporation, where 40.8 billion is given, and in your report you said NEC is persistently and continuously making losses. It's a bottomless pit. What do you want us to account to the people? That we continue appropriating money that was put in a bottomless pit?
Just like we have committed ourselves, submit a report on the performance of NEC.
The meeting later turned dramatic when MPs questioned UPDF officers over their involvement in arresting murder suspects and detaining them without police involvement. They were also questioned about a one Serunjoji, also known as Sebi, who was arrested recently and later released, and the group allegedly being protected by UPDF. A moment of exchange ensued in Parliament as the chairperson of the committee, Olsem Pibudaka constituency Mbogoke Zekia, attempted to adjourn the meeting.
Order. Chairman, sir. Order, members. Now, Mr. Chairman. Now we wanted information from the minister. Mr. Chairman, sir. But amongst ourselves, Mr. Chairman, we have the answers, we have the questions. So at this juncture, Mr. Chairman, I adjourn the meeting. Mr. Chairman, the next day. Thank you. Honorable Minister, the meeting has been adjourned.
No, Mr. Chairman, we agree it's very pertinent issues.
Chairman, if you leave the committee, we shall chair the committee ourselves.
Mr. Chairman, no. Mr. Chairman,
no. Chairman, you shall chair the committee now. We shall chair the committee now.
Minister, you can respond to those issues.
Minister, sit down.
Minister, you sit down.
No, we shall close that gate. Don't go.
Sechikubo and Gilbert Olanya locked the door to prevent officials from the Ministry of Defense and the chairperson of the committee from exiting without addressing issues they considered pertinent.
No, you cannot go anywhere. Chairman, you need to know your role. You cannot adjourn without response.
What did he do?
The scuffle took some time, although later the ministry officials were allowed to walk out, with members threatening not to pass their budget.
We write to them, let them come back here and answer the operational issues as raised.
Because the chairperson has to stand by all means and in all ways with the committee. Because we are seeking answers.
Legislators accused the chairperson of conniving with the guests to prematurely end the meeting.
And we examine the role of the chairperson and the vice chairperson. Remember when Nabakoba, they had challenges. We did not expect this from our senior member. You are a senior, more senior to...
Man, you're a chairman, yes, we know. You have got all the mandate, the powers within your hands, but you must respect members of parliament.
We can respect each other's suggestions. We can respect each other's mind. We can respect. Then these other things wouldn't even come in. But as this one here is presenting, another one is also interjecting. Now, in most cases, we look like children amidst the visitors who have invited.
They agreed to summon the Minister of Defense for explanation before any other matter is handled. Bernard Yiga, Parliament.
Thank you, Bernard Yiga. Now, 70 billion shillings is required to implement digital migration across the country to enable the rest of Ugandans access free digital television service. The Managing Director, Uganda Broadcasting Corporation, Winston Agaba, told the Committee of Parliament on Information Communication Technology that the up-country population face exploitation by the pay TVs. The free digital television service is available with a radius of 70 kilometers, referred to as Greater Kampala. We have that story.
In 2015, Uganda implemented digital migration to fulfill the International Telecommunication Union requirement, although the rollout was limited to a 70-kilometer radius from the capital city, Kampala. Therefore, to cover the entire country, at least 17 sites have to be installed with digital signal receivers, which requires 70 billion shillings capital investment. The Managing Director, Uganda Broadcasting Corporation, Winston Agaba, explained to the Committee of Parliament on Information, Communication Technology and National Guidance the plan to enter into public-private partnership.
This PPP is supposed to aid the government to make sure that digital migration happens across the country. Right now, as we speak, Madam Chair, apart from the viewers in Kampala who have free-to-air decoders, across the country, all Ugandans are accessing TV via the pay TV platforms, which is very unfortunate, which is sucking the little money that our people have out there in the countryside, because everyone must pay the pay TV players on the market. If they are not on the DSTV, then they are on Go TV, on Star Times, on Zook, and the other players. So, Madam Chair, this is very critical as your committee to really look at this as a national crisis.
Minister of State for ICT, Aida Nantaba, and the Line Permanent Secretary, Vincent Bajire, affirmed that government is funding the project.
Yes, he has good intentions for the amounts, for the huge amount of 70 billion, but he does not have proof that he will actually get this money, since the PPA arrangement has not even moved to the Ministry of Finance to go to Cabinet for approval. So there I would seek for your indulgence, Madam Chair, on whether he should budget on money he does not have.
From the government perspective, we are critically evaluating whether indeed a Chinese firm, Star Times, should have full control of the national broadcaster. And that's why I want to urge the committee to avail resources to UBC in a manner that is sustainable, more money annually.
Section of the committee members expressed need for the corporation to improve to serve the public better.
I think a lot needs to be done for UBC.
How can we help UBC get better? Because
Bajire stated that a cut on the 20 billion shillings President Yoweri Museveni pledged towards realignment of the corporation had affected quick implementation of plans.
And when we made the proposal, you will recall, our proposal was 10 billion, rather 20 billion, and at appropriation, it was reduced by 2 billion. So in other words, we can't do as much as we wanted to do in UBC. And I must add, the reason we wanted all this money was to reorganize by restructuring, which restructuring meant people would be paid their gratuity, and some would have to be retired and replaced, but after they've been paid all their money. So the fact that the money is not coming in one go implies that we cannot entirely have the revamp in the manner that we had. So what we've adopted is we're reducing staff department by department in accordance to the resources available.
The ministry and the line agencies were accounting for budget expenditures for financial year 2017-18, as well as speak to the proposed budget request for financial year 2018-19. Onyango Jackson, reporting for UBC TV at Parliament.
Cranes captain Andrew Mwesigwa, commonly known as Ande Mwesigwa, has retired from professional football. He officially announced and released a statement to the media at his newly established Ande Mwesigwa Sports Education and Sports College in Wakiso District. Our reporter Helen Gizamba was at the press conference, and she here reports and will later on give us more details in a discussion briefly with my colleague Rodengozi. Let's have the story first.
Born and raised in Jinja District by Mr. and Miss Catherine Namwaya, a retired nurse, former Cranes captain Ande Mwesigwa today announced his retirement from his footballing career. Ande started his professional career in football with Mbale Heroes in 2001 before moving to Sports Club Villa. He joined the Uganda Cranes squad in 2006 and was named team captain the same year.
To play professional football, I've managed to play for the national team for the past 13 years. It has been very great for me, and I'm glad that I'm among the Ugandan soccer players that have managed to play in Europe. I've been to Europe. I played European League 8 seasons. That is in Iceland with IBV Football Club. I played for 4 seasons.
Had 78 appearances for the Uganda Cranes and managed to score 8 goals. Having gained experience in his career, he started pursuing a professional career in the European and Chinese League, where he played for 8 seasons.
We used to cook for ourselves food when we travel abroad. We could travel with our posho, and I personally, together with Ibrahim Mugisha, were the chief cooks, mingling the posho for the players. It is memorable, and I really enjoyed those days, though they weren't that worth a national team, but I'm really happy that I passed through that. So I think I laid also a foundation to the national team for the current progress they are in now.
He attributed his success to hard work and fear of God, where he urged upcoming stars to be humble and always respect coaches.
Thank the fans that have been there by my side. I will again thank my family, my wife and my kids. They've always been there for me. I will thank my mom. I will thank you people, the journalists.
Ndemwesgwa's mom, Catherine Namwaya, added that she identified his talent at an early age of 6, where she had to later support him.
Zakatonda, olw'olunaku luno, Mukama lwakoze, kubanga buli olunaku olukya, Mukama yalukola, era lubeerako na pulogulaamu ya Katonda. Njagala okwebaza kubanga mutabani wange amanaginze okusiibula leero omupiira official nga mulamu ng'ate alinako kyagenda okukola ekirala. Njagala okwebaza kubanga yali mugonvu n'awulira omuzadde kye yali amwagaza. Abaana abamu beewagula ku bazadde baabwe naye n'enkomerero yaabwe teba nnungi kubanga bayibuli etugamba nti kitaawo ne nyoko basangamu ekitiibwa, ennaku ze zitulyoke zibeere nnyingi ate ennyingi ate obeere bulungi.
And they will concentrate on the education project, where he runs a secondary school and a soccer academy. He targets young people aged 5 to 16 years during holidays. For UBC, Helen Barbara, Juzamba.
Welcome back. You are still watching News Tonight. Now, today, the former Uganda Cranes captain Ande Mwesigwa announced his retirement. With me in studio is Helen Barbara Jizamba to talk about this and more. Welcome.
Thank you.
Who is Ande Mwesigwa and what legacy is he leaving?
Ande Mwesigwa is a former international player for the Uganda Cranes. The legacy he has left behind, he has been Uganda Cranes captain for more than 13 years, yeah? And Ande Mwesigwa as a leader, he has a lot in his docket. He has been a leader. When you look at some of the captains Uganda Cranes has had, for example, Oboa, they've misbehaved in camp. But for Ande Mwesigwa, regardless the hard times they went through, most especially during the late David Oboa's regime, with the worst welfare. He was always down to earth. And when I talked to some of the players who played with Ande Mwesigwa in the same team, they say Mwesigwa was like a dad in the camp. So he had all the skills of leadership. He knew how to communicate with players. The relationship between players and the coach till the administrative block of FUFA, the administrative side of FUFA and stuff, Ande Mwesigwa was always this kind of player who would represent his fellow players so well.
And that quality seems to be lacking in most of today's football. Why do you think? Why can't people emulate such kinds of players?
You know, sometimes when you look at some of these players, some of them haven't gone through academies. But when you look at someone like Ande Mwesigwa, he has played in the under-23. He has been in the academy from the age of 6. So he has been prepared step by step. He didn't come from nowhere and then started playing football. Meaning, when you're in those academies, you're prepared. Discipline is #1 for any athlete. You must be disciplined. So by the time you're named a captain, you've gone through the steps. So he ages all these other players.
How old is he? Why does he choose to retire now?
Really, about his age, I can't mention much about his age, because our sports people here, much as I'm an athlete as well, are not good at talking about their age. But what he has done, he has been in the football career for 15 years. Mm-hmm. Yep.
And how has the news of his retirement been received in the sports fraternity, if you could say?
In the sports fraternity, we as journalists, we feel it's the right time for him to announce his retirement, because he's prepared for himself. He hasn't wasted his days. The money he made in China, in Kazakhstan, in Vietnam, he made lots of money, and he has invested that money. So if he comes out and announces his retirement, he's good to go. You look at most of the Ugandan athletes here, when they retire, they come back to the media to seek for help. But when will Ande come? He has a school, he has a boda circle, he has real estate business, among other things we can't mention here on air. He's well prepared, and all journalists were like, this is the time for him to go. Let him go and do his personal work.
So unlike other sportsmen, we can say he's good to stand on his own after sports?
True, very well. And he's already a director for his school. He has a soccer academy, why not?
What's next for him now, exactly? What is he really going, yes, you've talked about the businesses he has, but is he going to continue with the sports, teaching other people how to go about football?
Like I said, he has a soccer academy. He's going to continue grooming young people into the sport. And various sports, because when you look at his school, he has a basketball court, he has netball. He's also going to construct a tennis court, meaning he wants to build talent in different sports disciplines, though he's going to embark more on business.
Thank you for joining us, Helen. Let's take a quick break. We'll return with more details.
Guest corner and that short break we've had. Back to more news. Police has arrested 16 people suspected to have been involved in the incident of attacking officers of the Border 2010 and kept 46 borders abandoned at the scene.
Police spokesperson Emilian Kaima says after scrutinizing the suspects and making files, they will be charged with cases of breaking into offices, taking the law in their hands, and theft, among others.
The joint operations by security personnel on arresting leaders of the Boda Boda 2010 for suspected involvement in criminal activities were followed by jubilations by Boda Boda riders who broke into different offices belonging to Boda Boda 2010 and destroying property. Police arrested a number of them and removed abandoned motorcycles to Central Police Station in Kampala.
The police quickly intercepted them. A few arrests were made. In total, by last evening, we had 16 suspected criminals who were carrying out these crimes. And then some border borders were abandoned at the scene, having done this. In total, by last evening, we had 46 motorbikes. We agreed that the suspects will be kept and investigated at their various divisions.
The spokesperson Emilian Kaima says these are going to be handled with an iron hand for others to learn that taking the law in their hands is criminal.
Inciting violence, theft, office breaking, and many others. So all of these cases will go to each of the individuals that will be found responsible for having committed this at the stage of screening them. I'm sure out of the 16, a few might not be culpable at that stage, so they can be let to go. That taking the law into your hands is criminal. It doesn't matter how angry you are or how happy you are or how the other party annoyed you, it doesn't matter.
Membership of other Boda Boda associations whose members were arrested have lashed at police for collaborating with members of Boda Boda 2010 instead of doing the work themselves. Accordingly, police arrested 5 members of Century Boda Association.
N'atakwata bantu abo nga babamulaga nti wuyo ne wuyo ate okulanga ate bano bebasongamu bebakwata abo bareporting ne babatwala ffe tubadde tusibwa eva and eva nakati era ekyakoleddwa yaze n'apikinga abantu baffe n'abatwala zaba kooti zonna zitunulira abaana abo batemulwa buli alina embale.
Well, Lubaga Division NRM youth members have initiated a process of impeaching the chairman of NRM party in Lubaga, Abdallah Chitata, now jailed for alleged involvement in a case clinic staff murder.
As a person, or as a person, has confessed many illegalities that cannot stand to be a chairman of Lubaga district. So far, we have another point that Chitata is a powerful person, as he calls himself, that is talking to Kaikula, is talking to President. A lot of gangs has created a lot of criminals, has a lot of criminal gangs, and you cannot actually stand with Chitata anymore. For us as youth in Lubaga, as the leaders of Lubaga, particularly in any RM and in youth council, because we are all in RM and youth council, we cannot stand with Chitata. And actually, we are appealing to the national chairman, Mr. President, Vice Chairman, Mr. Chigongo, and Mr. Tango Doi to organize another new election for the Lubaga because you cannot go further with that criminal.
His name has been seen in so many occasions of violation of human rights. They have violated the rights of border borders. You can take an example. One time I was on a border at Inamirembe Road, and the guy was taken and brutally beaten.
I'm Nafka Farida and Gloria Gwitabinji reporting.
Yes. In good news, the Heart Institute in Uganda will start executing heart surgeries after acquiring the necessary equipment to diagnose cardiac diseases. A senior surgeon and consultant, Dr. Tom Mwambu, says that complications of focus are diagnosis of the internal mammary artery, famous for the blockages, as disorders that affects functionality of the heart. Purchase of a machine worth 60 million shillings extended to the Heart Institute will enable the doctors carry out surgeries at the Heart Institute. Banonya Cosmos has this in detail.
The heart is an organ that supports life of animals through supply of blood. Working hand in hand with the lungs that is responsible for respiratory functions, seldom the heart is affected by different diseases, especially artery blockages. Doctors attribute people's lifestyles that concentrate cholesterol and fats which block the arteries.
We are seeing a rising number of patients presenting with coronary artery disease, which are arising because of changes in lifestyle.
Now, the Heart Institute has the capacity to deal with complications after acquiring the 400 million Uganda shillings assistance. The operation processes of the surgery imply a bypass of blocked blood vessels that carry blood to parts of the body, a situation that may result in fatalities.
The main right coronary artery here is all blocked.
Surgeons at the Heart Institute also anticipate that acquisition of such apparatus will relieve Ugandans traveling abroad for heart surgeries. Doctors have already carried out 3 vessel graft operations in Uganda. The new apparatus will reduce costs of heart complications by 2/3. Abiona Francisco and Cosmos Banuya, UBC News.
Thank you, Cosmas and Francisco. Court of Appeal has vaulted a trial judge in an election petition of Mwenge North constituency for relying on evidence of non-existent witness to nullify the 2016 poll results. In the judgment, the 3 justices held that it was wrong for the trial judge to consider evidence of a witness whose affidavit was not available.
In his appeal, Lawrence Akogizibwe sought redress after a trial judge in Fort Portal nullified his election on grounds that there were irregularities in 2 of the 91 polling stations as the tallying process was not completed. It was alleged that some voters were denied chance to vote. There was sharing of ballots between polling stations. In analyzing the evidence, a panel of 3 judges from Court of Appeal say the irregularities were a mistake of the Electoral Commission, which could not be blamed on a particular candidate.
Produce some tangible evidence to show that the said persons were present, ready to vote, but were denied the right to do so. He failed to do that. Therefore, ground 9 succeeds.
At 2 of the 91 polling stations, court held that the error was minimal to affect the results from the other 89 polling stations.
She erroneously relied on the evidence of non-existent witnesses. This, in our view, was a grave error on the part of the judge, and in those circumstances, we are unable to hold that the respondent irregularities found by the land trial judge on the results of the election was neither put to the correct test or proved to be satisfaction of court, and we therefore find that the non-compliance did not affect the results of the election in a substantial manner.
Court has overturned the lower court decision and pronounced the appellant, Lawrence Akogizibwe, the legally elected member of parliament for Mwenge North constituency.
So the next step now is to go back to the constituency, to start working with the people, meeting them for service delivery, to make sure that the services reach near them, because since we have been in court, we have not been able to accomplish everything.
However, counsel for the appellant, Ngaruye Ruhindi, says most judges are overwhelmed with the number of cases they handle in a given period of time.
They are given very many election petitions and given a very short timeline within which to deliver judgment. So when they handle cases concurrently, they sometimes confuse evidence from one petition and plant it in another petition. Like in the instant case, Wilson Ategeka was a witness in the petition of Vincent Mugisha versus Honorable Aston Kajara in Mwenge South. But this witness was now brought, was included in the judgment of Honorable Muhumuza versus Akugizibwe, which was a different constituency.
Meanwhile, supporters of the victor remained excited.
batune busasa mu kureba ngo bakashaza makaruru keitu beta tsazini tsima government ye hangeri abo kureba abaramuzi bacure muri ngo murundi twine kushemerwa kwango munonga
oli David alinde 23 kubanga katongezayo 7 years
abera beto nomusango tugusingire kimu abantu bona mu bahene TV zona abanyamakuru bona bali hano muturore kimo kusemererwa kwa amani.
Dokas Kimono, UBC News.
In business news, East Africa Grain Council has remarked that Uganda has the potential to declare maize grain a cash crop. Executive Director, Eastern Africa Grain Council, Gerald Makau Masila, says after the harmonization of the grain standards in December 2017, Uganda cereals have the potential to compete effectively in all the East African countries. He was briefing UBC on grain standards and food security in the region. Let's take a look.
For every trade to flourish, quality of the product counts, making it highly competitive in a given area. Although climate change still poses a threat to food security and sustainability on the market, farmer groups dealing in cereals have remained consistent after training in the grain value chain. And on the other hand, the establishment of the Grain Council has given Ugandan farmers chance to compete effectively for a better price in the region.
5 or 6 years ago, first of all, when they were not a farmer group, that out of the efforts of EAGC, we were able to form them into a farmer group. And these groups have been able to communally and collectively do quite a lot. They've been able to put up aggregation centers for themselves.
The Eastern Africa Grain Council foresees that harmonization of grain standards gives the Ugandan farmer who has other alternative foods chance to flood the region with grain.
We were able to develop the standards for maize, for wheat, for rice, for sorghum. There were about 23 plus also the flours, the products around that. And so the process involved setting the specifications at the national level. Has access to many other food crops apart from maize, so that when now then they get to grow maize and beans and other cereals for the market, and they sell and they get the money, that additional income they get puts the Ugandan farmer in a much better position with regard to food security, because they can even access from the market whatever else that they don't have.
The Grain Council outreach in different regions has helped farmer groups acquire machinery to increase productivity, targeting above the current 4 million metric tons annually.
For producing quality grain and aggregation centers to be able to get volumes, because most of our farmers are smallholder farmers, check the grain if it conforms to the standards that are required, which we have been taught by EAGC, the harmonized East African standards. Our members have been trained on maize grading.
Training farmer groups on post-harvest handling to minimize losses and irrigation to mitigate effects of climate change has increased farm output. Abiona Francisco, UBC News.
Now, in the world of sport, a strong field of close to 250 amateur golfers is expected in the inaugural Kitante Open that will be held from January 26th to 27th at the Part 72 Kitante Golf Course at the Uganda Golf Club. Also taking part will be junior golfers as the club and the union try to enhance the game of golf amongst the youth. Medal full handicap is the mode of play, with registration still ongoing until Thursday.
Bannaffe ab'omu union batwennyamiza lwaki club ennene ng'eno tehostinga gundi nnene bweti. Kati buli mwaka tujja kubeera ne competition eno era tukakasa nti kati kijja kuyambako okulaba nga embeera y'omuzannyo gwa golf ekulaakulana mu nsi.
And that does it for News Tonight. Thank you for watching. Jananapori is a sign language interpreter. I'm Rhoda Ngonzi.
Michael Jordan Lukomo.
Have a good night.